Growing up, our parents always said the same thing. We treat you girls exactly the same. And for the most part, it seemed true. We were a middle-class family, and nothing extravagant but stable. My dad worked in finance, my mom ran a small interior design business from home. We lived in a comfortable 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, took one vacation a year, and ate dinner together almost every night. Nothing flashy, just normal. I was the oldest, Leila, the straight-A student, the organized one, the planner. Nicole was my younger sister by 3 years. Softer, sillier, always running 5 steps behind and somehow getting away with it. But we were close, not inseparable, but bonded. We fought like all siblings do, but we shared rooms, secrets, and playlists. Our parents made sure we both had access to the same schools, the same tutors, the same college savings accounts. Fairness was a big deal in our house. If I got a new backpack, Nicole got to pick one too. If Nicole went to camp, I got to choose an activity that same summer. It was balanced, at least on paper. We both went to college. I studied architecture. Nicole chose communications. I moved out first, got a job straight after graduation, and began paying off my loans while renting a small apartment downtown. Nicole moved back in after school, said she needed time to find herself and save up before making any big decisions. My parents didn't mind. She just needs a little extra time, Mom said. I didn't resent it. Not really. Nicole was different. Sensitive, emotional, the kind of person who cried during commercials and forgot her car keys at least once a week. I figured it made sense that she'd need a bit more help, and I was the one who could manage on my own. That's what I kept telling myself. Nicole got engaged last spring. It wasn't a surprise. Her boyfriend Ada had basically lived at my parents' house for the past year. He was sweet, quiet, worked in tech. My parents loved him. I congratulated them, helped Nicole design her wedding invites, even took time off to go dress shopping. I did what older sisters do. Showed up, stayed supportive, smiled through the chaos. A few weeks before her bridal shower, I got a group text from Mom. Surprise for Nicole this weekend. Everyone please keep it under wraps. I didn't think much of it. Maybe a custom cake, a slideshow, a catered brunch. Nicole loved that kind of stuff. But when I pulled into the driveway that Saturday, nothing looked out of the ordinary until I stepped inside. Balloons everywhere. Welcome home, banners, champagne flutes. And then I saw the photos. Framed renderings of a 2-story modern craftsman house tied in with a literal bow. On the kitchen table sat a small black folder. Inside was the deed. A house. In Nicole's name. Fully paid. I stood there in shock as my parents toasted with glasses of pink Prosecco. Dad hugged Nicole. Mom beamed. People were clapping. Nicole was crying. And I couldn't move. Later, when things quieted down, I pulled my mom aside and asked, carefully, trying not to sound bitter, "So, you bought her a house?" She smiled like it was the most natural thing in the world. Well, we wanted her to start her marriage off on the right foot. You know how hard it is out there for young couples. I nodded slowly. But I'm still renting a 1-bedroom. I've got over $30,000 in student debt. I've been budgeting every cent for 5 years. And you never offered... Mom cut me off gently. Leila, you've always been the responsible one. You're smart. You'll figure it out. Nicole needed the help more. I just stared at her. That sentence landed like a knife between my ribs. Not because it was cruel, but because it was final. A quiet declaration that everything I'd done to be the dependable one had made me invisible. I left the party early, told them I wasn't feeling well, which wasn't a lie. I felt something splinter in me that night. Not rage, not even betrayal. Just a quiet, steady unraveling of a belief I hadn't realized I'd clung to my whole life. That things had been fair. That love had been even. That I mattered in the same way she did. Looking back, the signs were always there. Not loud, not aggressive. Not something you could point to and to say, "See? That's unfair." Number, it was quiet. Subtle. The kind of imbalance you could easily miss if you weren't the one standing just outside the circle. Nicole was always Mom's own little sunshine. Dad called her Sweet Pea. She cried easily, giggled often, and wrapped herself around people's legs like a kitten. She hated being alone, forgot her homework constantly, and needed to be walked into the classroom until 4th grade. And me? I was our little adult. Mature beyond her years. Wise for her age. At the time, I thought it was a compliment. I wore it like a badge. I liked being helpful. I liked that teachers trusted me to pass out papers, that I could babysit myself by age 10 while mom and dad took Nicole to her dance lessons. But what I didn't realize back then was that being called mature was their way of excusing themselves from caring too much. If Nicole had a nightmare, she was tucked back in with lullabies. If I had one, I was told I was too old for that. If Nicole forgot her lunch, someone would drop it off. If I forgot mine, I was told I should have double-checked. When we were 7 and 10, we broke Mom's favorite ceramic vase playing tag in the living room. Nicole crashed into the table. The vase shattered. We both froze, wide-eyed. When Mom stormed in, her gaze went straight to me. "Leila, what were you thinking? You know better." Nicole's bottom lip trembled. She burst into tears, wailing in that loud, breathless way that always worked. Mom's face softened immediately. "Oh, baby, are you okay? Did you hurt yourself?" "It's all right. It was an accident." I stood there, silent, stunned. The kind of stun that comes from realizing something small but permanent. I wanted to say, she was the one who broke it, but I didn't, because it didn't matter. Nicole cried. I didn't. That's all they saw. That pattern repeated itself over and over. Birthdays were no exception. For my 9th birthday, Mom picked up a sheet cake from the grocery store, plain chocolate with "Happy Birthday, Leila" scribbled in blue. We ate it after dinner on paper plates. I got 2 gifts, a book series and a sweater. No complaints. I loved reading. Nicole's 7th? The backyard became a butterfly garden, pink and purple decorations everywhere, a bounce house, personalized party favors. She wore a glittery tutu. There was a professional photographer. I asked later, "Did I ever get a party like that?" Mom smiled and said, "You never liked attention, sweetie. You were always more low-key." I remember not knowing how to respond. Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't like attention. But maybe I just learned early on that I wouldn't get it, even if I did. And that became the theme. Nicole had messy emotions. I managed mine. Nicole made mistakes. I avoided them. Nicole got grace. I got expectations. Even in high school, when she failed geometry, they got her a tutor. When I got a B+ in calculus, Dad sat me down for a talk about slipping standards. Nicole crashed the family car at 17. She cried, apologized, and got it fixed with money from Mom's rainy day fund. I scraped and saved for months to buy my own secondhand Civic, and still paid my own insurance. It's not that they didn't love me. I believe they did, but I think they loved me with relief, because I was easy to love. Low maintenance, predictable, gratitude without the mess. And Nicole, they loved her with effort, with energy, with noise. She required more, and because of that, she got more. I used to think being the strong one made me valuable. Now I'm starting to wonder if it just made me invisible. It wasn't just the birthdays or the broken vase, and it was everything else. The little things that stacked themselves up year after year until they formed something unignorable. Nicole was allowed to stumble. She changed her major twice in college. Took a semester off to clear her head. Worked part-time at a local cafe and lived at home rent-free. Every time she hit a wall, someone was there to pad the fall. Mom called it giving her room to grow. When I struggled, even a little, it was treated like a threat to the narrative. I remember calling Dad during my 2nd year of architecture school. I was drowning in deadlines, hadn't slept in 2 days, and just wanted to hear someone say it was okay to be overwhelmed. Instead, he said, "You always put too much pressure on yourself. No one's making you miserable but you." Nicole once failed 2 classes in a row. Mom baked her muffins and told her to take things one day at a time. I graduated with honors. I didn't get muffins. I got a polite nod and a "good job, kiddo" over dinner. Nicole got a celebration dinner for landing a retail internship at a mall. When she called crying about a breakup, Mom cleared her schedule to sit with her all afternoon. When I told them I'd ended a 3-year relationship, Mom's only question was, "Did you at least keep the apartment?" And still, I tried to be the good sister. I gave advice when she asked, proofread her resumes, drove her to job interviews, talked her down from spirals. But whenever I said something honest, like, "Maybe you need to take responsibility for your choices," or "You can't keep expecting Mom and Dad to fix everything," or she'd go cold. "You're just jealous," she snapped once. "You've always been like this, trying to act perfect." I wanted to scream, "I'm not jealous, Nicole. I'm tired." But I didn't. Because somehow trying to hold her accountable made me the bitter one, the rigid one. the one who couldn't just let people live. They saw my boundaries as walls, my silence as judgment, my discipline as arrogance. I became the background character in her drama, the older sister who had it all figured out, so they never had to worry about me. I learned early that the best way to stay included was to stay agreeable, to downplay my wins, soften my opinions, pretend I didn't notice when they turned toward her louder, warmer, more often. I thought being low maintenance made me noble, but really it just made me disappear. And the more I think about it, the more I realize I didn't handle things better. I was just handed less. Less attention, less patience, less space to be messy. Because I never gave them a reason to worry, they assumed I never needed anything at all. I used to wear that like armor. I'm strong, I'm fine, I don't need help. But now I wonder, was I strong? Or was I just scared to find out what would happen if I stopped holding it all together? Because deep down, I think I always knew. If I dropped the ball, no one would be there to catch it. Not the way they did for Nicole. The invitation came in the mail, an actual printed card with gold foil lettering and an RSVP number. Please join us in celebrating Nicole and Adam's new beginning. Underneath, in smaller script, housewarming and engagement party. Hosted with love by Mom and Dad. There was no mention of me. Not that I expected it. The address was in a quiet cul-de-sac outside the city. A brand new development with identical two-story homes, each with manicured lawns and door wreaths coordinated by season. When I pulled up, the driveway was already full. Cars lined the street. I parked down the block and walked in heels that pinched, holding a bottle of wine I'd bought on sale the day before. I told myself I was fine. I was here to be supportive. This wasn't about me. But the moment I stepped through the door, I felt it. That subtle shift, the way people's smiles brightened just a little more for Nicole, how Mom's eyes lit up when she greeted guests, introducing them to our daughter and future son-in-law, like she was announcing royalty. The living room was decorated with soft cream and blush tones. A custom-made sign hung above the fireplace. Home, sweet home, Endura established. 2024, Nicole and Adam. I recognized Mom's handwriting. She'd always loved her calligraphy sets. There were flowers on every surface, candles, a photo slideshow looping on the TV, framed shots of Nicole and Adam beaming outside their new house, shots of the empty rooms, soon to be filled, the caption read, with love, laughter, and the life they deserved. I hovered near the back, sipping wine, nodding politely, smiling when appropriate. People asked me how work was going. I gave short, practiced answers. I watched Nicole float around the room glowing. She wore a champagne-colored dress and had her hair curled in soft waves. Dad called her our angel. I'd never been called anything like that. Then I heard it. Mom was standing with a group of her friends near the dining table. She was holding a mimosa, laughing softly, her tone warm and proud. Nicole has been through so much, she said. She really deserves this. We just wanted her to start off strong. Every girl should have something of her own. The woman next to her nodded. It's such a generous gift. Not many parents could pull that off. Mom smiled. We did what we had to. Nicole's always needed a little more support, and honestly, Leila's doing great on her own. She's so independent. We're lucky that way. I don't think she'd meant for me to hear it, but I did. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. It wasn't just the house, it was the narrative, the way they'd packaged it. Nicole got help because she needed it. I didn't, because I didn't need anything. I wasn't overlooked. I was used as the benchmark that justified ignoring me. I set down my wine glass and walked out to the backyard. It was empty, save for a few patio chairs. I sat down and stared at the grass, forcing the tears not to come. You're strong. You're fine. You'll figure it out. That had always been the story. But strength without support isn't noble. It's exhausting. I stayed another hour, posed for photos, hugged Nicole goodbye. She whispered, thanks for coming, like she knew it took effort. I stayed longer than I should have. The polite part of me, the one they'd trained so well, didn't want to make a scene. I smiled for photos. I helped pass out cupcakes. I laughed at a joke I didn't hear. I even complimented the color of the kitchen cabinets. But inside, everything had already shifted. After most of the guests had gone and the house had quieted, I found Mom in the kitchen rinsing champagne glasses at the sink. Her hair was pinned up loosely, and she was humming, light, content. Can I ask you something? I said. She glanced at me, then back at the dishes. Of course, sweetheart. What's up? I leaned against the counter. My voice came out more steady than I expected. Why does Nicole deserve a house? She paused, hands still in the water. What do you mean? I swallowed. You said she's been through a lot, that she deserves this. I want to understand, because I've worked since college, paid my own rent. I never asked for anything, and you've never offered. She dried her hands on a towel, then turned to face me. Her expression softened, like she was preparing a gentle letdown. Leila, come on. You've always been so capable. You don't need us the way Nicole does. I blinked. That's it? I asked. Because I could handle more, I get less? It's not about less. It's about what each of you needed. You're strong. You've always figured things out on your own. You never struggled the way she did. I felt the heat rise behind my eyes. You mean I never showed you I was struggling, I said, because there was no room for that. Mom sighed, already looking tired of the conversation. You're twisting this. We have always tried to be fair. No, you tried to be equal when it was easy, I said. But when it mattered, when it was big, you chose her, and you used my strength to justify it. There was a long silence between us. Mom looked away first. She needed this more, she said, as if it settled everything. I nodded. Got it. I grabbed my coat, walked toward the door, then stopped when I saw Nicole standing by the stairs. She hadn't said anything the whole time. Our eyes met. I waited for her to say something, anything. Finally, she shrugged. I didn't ask for the house, you know? I stared at her. But you took it. She opened her mouth, closed it, and that was the end of it. I walked out, got in my car, closed the door, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the older sister. I felt like the outsider who'd finally stopped pretending to belong. For a while, I told myself it was fine. I went back to work on Monday. I answered emails, submitted my reports, sat through meetings and took notes like I always did. I meal prepped, did laundry, paid bills. I even called my parents that Thursday, just to prove to them, maybe to myself, that I wasn't upset, that I could take it, that it hadn't broken me. Mom picked up. She sounded cheerful, lighter than usual. Hi, honey. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Just checking in. She updated me on the garden, the neighbor's dog, the weather. Then, almost like clockwork, she asked, Have you talked to Nicole? She's been feeling a little overwhelmed. Adam's working late these days. I hadn't talked to Nicole. She hadn't called, hadn't texted either, not even a meme or a forwarded reel. I haven't, I said. Oh, well, maybe reach out. She really looks up to you, you know? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable, so painfully scripted. We talked for 6 more minutes. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She didn't ask about the party, or what it might have felt like to watch them hand someone else a key to a future I'd been building brick by brick on my own. When I hung up, I stared at the wall for a full minute. I didn't feel angry. I just felt tired. The weeks passed. Dad called once about a tax question. 2 minutes of small talk then. How's work? Staying busy. He didn't wait for a full answer before changing the subject. Nicole posted pictures of her new kitchen on Instagram. Feeling grateful as aren't your home dreams come true. The caption stung more than it should have. She hadn't built that dream. It had been handed to her, wrapped in bows and reinforced with apologies no one ever said out loud. I stopped checking her feed after that. I kept functioning, got a promotion, moved to a slightly bigger apartment, paid off another chunk of my loans. And still every time the phone rang and it was one of them, I answered, still hoping stupidly, quietly, that maybe this time they'd ask something different, something like, Are you okay? Or, How did that feel? Or even, We didn't realize it hurt. But it was always, Nicole's thinking of grad school. Nicole might be pregnant. Nicole wants to repaint the living room. What color do you think is good for light? They spoke about her like she was a joint project, an emotional group effort. They spoke to me like a contractor, a consultant, someone useful, but not central. The distance grew, even though I never stopped showing up. One night I got home late after working a double shift. I hadn't eaten all day and I was too tired to cook. I sat on the kitchen floor with a bag of chips and a beer, scrolled through my messages. Nicole had texted a meme. No words, no how are you, no follow-up. Just a clip of a raccoon washing cotton candy until it dissolved in water. I watched it loop 3 times before closing the app. I don't know what broke me that night. Maybe it was the silence behind her message. Maybe it was the absurdity of it. The perfect metaphor for what I felt like. Working so hard to preserve something, only to watch it dissolve the moment you try to hold it up to the light. I started therapy a week later, not because of the house, not even because of Nicole, but because I realized that for almost 30 years, I had measured my worth by how little I needed, and how much I could take without complaint. I was tired of pretending that was something to be proud of. I waited a few weeks before reaching out, not because I didn't want to talk to Nicole, but because I needed to figure out what I even wanted from her. Closure, apology, some kind of acknowledgement, or maybe just to see if she noticed the fracture at all. We met at a coffee shop halfway between her new house and my apartment, neutral ground. She was late, of course, blaming traffic, then laughing about how this one street always sneaks up on me. I smiled politely, already bracing. She ordered something with oat milk and extra foam. I just got a black coffee. How's work? She asked, stirring her drink. It's good, I said. Busy. That's great. I always tell people how you're the responsible one. You've got your life together way more than I ever will. I tried to smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. We made small talk for 10 minutes. Her new curtains, my landlord raising rent, a mutual cousin getting engaged. Then finally I asked, Can I ask you something real? Nicole blinked, suddenly more alert. Sure? I paused, picked at the cardboard sleeve on my cup. Do you think it was fair? What Mom and Dad did? She tilted her head. With the house? Yeah, I said. With everything, honestly. Nicole exhaled like I dropped something heavy on the table. Leila, come on. No, really, I said, keeping my tone even. Do you think it was fair? She shrugged. I didn't ask for the house, they just offered. I know, I said. I'm not blaming you for accepting it. I just want to know. Did you ever feel like maybe they gave you more because they knew I wouldn't say anything? Nicole went quiet for a moment. Then she leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. I think you're making this into a bigger deal than it is, she said. It's just a house. I nodded slowly. It's not about the house. It's about what the house symbolizes. She rolled her eyes. God, you always do this. Turn everything into some deeper meaning. Because it has deeper meaning, Nicole. You always had more than me emotionally, she said suddenly, voice clipped. You were their golden child. You got the grades, the praise, the attention for being perfect. I was the mess up. I was the emotional one. You think that felt good? I stared at her, stunned, not because I hadn't heard this before, but because she truly believed it. You think praise equals love? I asked. You think being the one who didn't get comfort when she cried, who got silence when she needed support, that's more? I think you had it easier, she said, not meeting my eyes. That was it. Not a fight, not a scream. Just the sound of a door closing quietly somewhere inside me. I took a long sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. I'm not trying to rewrite the past, I said. I just wanted to know if you ever saw it, the way things really were. Nicole didn't respond. She tapped her straw against the lid, then checked her phone. I should go, she said. Adam's waiting. I nodded. Of course. We stood, hugged briefly. Her arms were light, mine were tired. As she walked away, I realized something that should have hurt more than it did. She wasn't just protected by them, she was built by them, shaped in their image, their version of fairness. And maybe that meant she'd never be able to see what I saw. And I'd never be able to forget. It came out in the most casual way. Over tea, on a rainy Saturday afternoon. I'd stopped by my Aunt Miriam's house after dropping off some old books she wanted. We weren't particularly close, but she was the kind of woman who remembered birthdays and always asked how work was going, and actually listened to the answer. She poured Earl Grey into mismatched cups and asked how I was. I gave her the usual. Work was fine, apartment was fine, life was fine. Then I must have let something slip. A tired look. A pause too long. You seem off today, she said gently. I shrugged. Just some stuff with Mom and Dad. It's nothing big. Miriam raised an eyebrow. That's rarely true in this family. I smiled tightly. She leaned forward. Is it about the house? My heart stopped. I hadn't mentioned the house. Not to her. Not to anyone outside my apartment and my therapist's office. I hesitated. So you know. She nodded. Your mom mentioned it at brunch last month. Said they were helping Nicole get settled. She looked proud, almost smug. I stayed quiet. Miriam sipped her tea, then set the cup down. Leila, do you know why they did it? I blinked. Because she needed it more? Miriam looked at me, really looked. Then she said without drama, because they still feel guilty. And something in my chest tightened. About what? She hesitated. I shouldn't be the one telling you this, but honestly, it's been long enough. And you deserve the truth. She exhaled. When Nicole was in college, her sophomore year, she got pregnant. I froze. What? She told your mom first. Your dad found out a day later. They were devastated, panicked. They didn't want anyone to know. Not the extended family, not their friends, not even me, until after the fact. My mouth had gone dry. She had an abortion, Leila, quietly. Your parents took care of everything, paid for it, covered it up, told the school she was taking a medical leave due to stress. I felt like I was falling through the floor, Miriam continued. They were terrified, not just about Nicole, but about how it would look, what people would say. You know how your mom is about appearances. Yes, I did. I remembered the time I wore a nose ring to Thanksgiving, and Mom didn't speak to me for 2 days. The way she once told me to smile smaller in photos so my gums didn't show. The time she made me change dresses because mine was too loud for a family wedding. And the house? I asked. Miriam nodded. They see it as giving her a fresh start, like making up for what happened. Like if they give her this, it erases the mess, makes her whole again in the eyes of everyone else. But what about me? I asked, voice suddenly sharp. What did I get? I never embarrassed them, never broke the rules, never made them lie. Miriam looked at me with something like sadness. You didn't need redemption, Leila, so they didn't offer you anything. And there it was. The answer I hadn't known I was chasing for years. I was good, so I was forgettable. I was self-sufficient, so I was left to fend. I never gave them a reason to cover for me, so I never gave them a reason to rally around me either. Their love wasn't unconditional. It was transactional, and I'd never made them desperate enough to invest. The thing about a revelation is that it doesn't always feel like a bomb going off. Sometimes it's a slow burn, a steady unraveling, a quiet voice whispering, "You were never the problem." I drove home from Aunt Miriam's in silence. No music, no podcast, just the sound of my own breath and the traffic washing past the windows. Nicole got help because she broke the rules, because she scared them, because they needed to protect her in a way that made them feel like good parents. And me? I followed the rules. I made safe choices. I never needed a cover-up, a second chance, a redemption arc. So they never gave me one. I wasn't supported, because I didn't make them feel useful. Their love wasn't given. It was assigned. To the child who made them feel necessary. To the daughter who gave them a crisis to manage, a story to control. And I was the mirror. The one who reminded them that they hadn't actually done the hard work. That maybe their version of parenting, smiles, structure, and occasional performance wasn't enough. Because if I could succeed without them holding my hand, if I could survive without falling apart, then maybe they weren't the heroes they thought they were. Maybe I proved too much. And maybe they resented me for it. That realization hurt in a way nothing else had. Not because I wanted their help, but because I finally understood why I never got it. It wasn't that I didn't earn it. It's that I never made them feel needed enough to offer. Nicole, in her chaos, made them feel important. I, in my silence, made them feel small. That's why they showed up for her. That's why they poured money, time, energy into her world. Because she gave them a role to play. I gave them a reminder they didn't want. I didn't cry that night. I didn't write a long, angry letter or delete every family contact from my phone. I just sat in my apartment, lights off, staring at the ceiling and thought, so this is it. This is what it's always been. Not favoritism in the way people think. Not love versus no love, but usefulness, symbolism, narratives. Nicole was the daughter they could save. I was the one they could ignore and still sleep at night, thinking they raised someone strong. And the worst part? They probably believed they treated us equally. They probably still do. But I know better now. That night I looked in the mirror and said it out loud for the first time. I wasn't overlooked because I failed to matter. I was overlooked because I succeeded in not needing. It wasn't fair. It wasn't love. But it also wasn't my fault. And I wasn't going to carry it anymore. It didn't happen all at once. There was no dramatic exit, no shouting, no doors slammed, just quiet decisions one after another. I stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped checking Nicole's social media or sending mom links to home decor ideas like I used to. The silence wasn't sudden. It just deepened, like a lake freezing over inch by inch, and no one broke through it. That spring I moved into a new place, not because I had to, but because I could. It was a one-bedroom walk-up above a bakery that smelled like cinnamon every morning. The rent wasn't cheap, but for the first time in my adult life, I could afford it without calculating how many meals I'd have to skip next month. Because here's the thing no one tells you about there being the responsible one. Eventually, it pays off. Not in love, not in praise, but in security, in freedom. By 32, I was managing a creative team at a design firm downtown. Not glamorous, but solid. The kind of job with PTO, health benefits, and coworkers who respected me because they knew I'd earned every inch of my role. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I didn't hold my breath when rent came due. I didn't panic when my car needed repairs. I didn't say yes to everything out of fear they'd replace me, and I did it without anyone handing me a house, without a safety net, without applause. That mattered more than I thought it would. I decorated my new apartment slowly, secondhand furniture, plants. I promised I wouldn't kill this time. Shelves full of books, photos I took myself, nothing framed by someone else's narrative. The space felt like me, not the version they wanted, not the daughter, not the sister, just Leila, and that was enough. Therapy helped to not overnight, but over time. I stopped trying to be reasonable about things that hurt. Stopped defending people who only ever showed up when it was convenient. Stopped explaining away the kind of love that only ran in one direction. My therapist asked once, "What would it look like if you didn't have to earn care?" And I'd gone silent, because I didn't know. Now I do. It looks like choosing yourself before anyone else gets the chance to forget you. That's around when I reconnected with Jonah. We'd gone to high school together, lost touch, refollowed, reappeared. He messaged one day, "I'm in your part of town. Want to grab coffee?" I said yes, expecting 30 minutes of awkward nostalgia. Instead, we talked for 2 hours, then 4. He didn't ask what happened with my family. He didn't poke or prod. He just listened, laughed, showed up again the next week, and the one after that. We didn't start dating right away. We built something slower, gentler, a rhythm made of small kindnesses and quiet consistency. He saw me, not because I performed, not because I impressed him, but because I was there, present, real. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to prove I belonged. I spent my next birthday alone, by choice, not lonely, just alone. I took the day off work, made myself lemon ricotta pancakes, bought fresh flowers, walked through a bookstore without a time limit, ordered Indian food, lit candles, played a record I loved all through college. At 8:42 p.m., I closed my eyes and whispered, "Happy birthday, Leila." No one else said it that day. Not Mom, not Nicole, not Dad. And still, it was the most loved I'd ever felt. A week later, Mom sent a message. Not a call, not a visit, just a text. "Sorry I missed your birthday. I hope it was nice. I know things haven't been easy between us, but I do think about you. I hope you're doing okay." No apology, no acknowledgement, just a vague attempt to nudge the door open. I read it, stared at it, put my phone down. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to respond. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need the conversation anymore. There's a freedom in realizing that you don't owe anyone your silence, your forgiveness, or your access, just because they share your DNA. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped trying to earn a place in it. A place that maybe was never really mine to begin with. And somehow, That realization didn't destroy me, it rebuilt me. Sometimes I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't asked the question, if I just kept smiling through birthday parties I wasn't invited to, if I'd stayed silent, been agreeable, said thank you when I didn't mean it. I think they would have loved that version of me more. The one who never asked for anything. The one who made it easier for them to look in the mirror. But I'm not her anymore. I'm not trying to be easy, or reasonable, or lovable in ways that don't cost anyone anything. I'm done earning affection that should have been offered freely. Done shrinking myself to fit into the idea of the good daughter. Done pretending that love handed to someone else isn't love taken from me. Because what I've learned, slowly, painfully, but completely, is this. I was never the problem. I was never too much. Never not enough. Never wrong for needing what no one taught me to ask for. They gave her a house and told me to figure things out. So I did. And what I figured out is that family isn't blood. It's not history. It's not what you owe. Family is where you are seen, where love isn't a transaction, where presence doesn't come with conditions, where you are chosen, not because you broke, but because you exist. And if that place doesn't exist in the people who raised you, you're allowed to build it somewhere else.